time to say a very good morning to Mr. Richard Tice. Welcome back after your extended, I wouldn't say break down in Sandwich, but probably quite a nice time.
It was. We had a great time down in Sandwich. Let's put it down to research.
Yes.
And no, the weather was fantastic, as it still is.
Yes.
But that's about the only good news, really. I mean, this should have been a joyous week with
Freedom
opening
Week,
up,
we
Freedom
used to call
Week.
it.
But actually, it feels like free lock.
Yes.
Because there's so much that is still actually where we're still under restrictions, and we've now got a sense of complete chaos. You go to supermarkets, and there's all sorts of shelves that have got very little on them because of the continuing pandemic crisis.
Yes,
the chaos which is going on. You've got hundreds and hundreds of thousands of workers in really important industries who are having to self-isolate because they've done what they thought was the right thing using the app, but actually they've been double jabbed. They've done everything the government asked, and now the government's essentially turned around and says, well, it doesn't matter.
Yes. Well, it seems to me that the government's now inventing new and unusual ways to stop the economy from recovering. Because this pinging business is nonsense. Nobody needs it. It doesn't particularly benefit anyone, particularly the kids who've been told to stay home from school. I mean, the most of the people who are not going to work have got nothing wrong with them.
What really troubles me is that we've heard literally for the whole year of the great success of the vaccine rollout. And on the one hand, yes, but if you've got a success story, then let's use it. Let's benefit from it. They've turned the vaccine success into an economic chaos where you've got stores closing, you've got deliveries not being able to be carried out, people having to stay at home, and therefore, in a sense, everybody's suffering, and that's just leading to more angst, more fury, when actually it's so obvious. And the Prime Minister himself has seen the lunacy of this policy. He's had COVID, he's been double jabbed, he gets pinged. He didn't want to isolate because he understood it was madness. Of course he shouldn't have.
His first instinct was right, wasn't it?
But rather than have the courage to stand up and say, right, I get it, folks, this doesn't make any sense. I'm the boss. I'm going to change the rules for everybody. Somehow he thought he could change the rules just for himself and put he and Rishi into a sort of
special bubble,
to a special pilot scheme that was designed for cabinet ministers only. Then he realised that wasn't sustainable. He should have had the courage and the gumption to say, right, let's change it for the whole country and let's have a sensible policy where, yes, if you've still got the app, and frankly I can't understand why anybody would still have the app given the ongoing chaos, but if you've still got the app and you get pinged, get a test, and if you are clear, then just carry on as normal. Because
this is one of the things I find staggering. I mean, listening to some business people talking on the news, complaining about losing 10 to 15 employees in quite a small business. Well, just tell them to get rid of it. What are you thinking? Why would you be going, oh, look, they all have to self-isolate?
Well, I think the difficulty for business leaders is that they are terrified of putting their head above the parapet and being criticised. And that's the challenge for business leaders. That is much easier. Just keep your head down, think you're doing the right thing. But the consequences, is really, really significant for businesses, small, medium, and large. And I massively sympathise with them. But I just can't understand, frankly, now why anybody would have the app. It's chaotic.
Because it was never compulsory to have the app. It was a recommended thing that people should do. They even said a couple of weeks ago it wasn't actually compulsory to self-isolate. And then they suddenly changed it back to, oh, no, it is compulsory. Nobody seems to know. I mean, the idea that Boris Johnson can't actually make a decision and stick to it staggers me. And when Nadeem Zahawi said the other day, oh, we don't... Well, actually, it wasn't him. No, it was Kwasi Kwarteng who said, oh, we don't want to change government policy because we don't want to just keep changing policy. I mean, it's all they've done for a year.
It's as though, actually, having got very close to Freedom Day, they've suddenly thought, oh, actually, we still want to be able to have some form of restrictions just in order to keep, us, the proletariat, the plebs... in some form of control, under some form of control, so that we should continue to feel grateful when the government just gradually, slowly ekes out some form of freedom that we previously had.
Do you think it's because they're worried that there will be some kind of COVID backlash, there will be some kind of wave which will prove to be more dangerous than we think?
Look, we've all seen the case numbers go up, but what the government should be doing is telling us what's the average age of those case numbers, because anecdotally, I believe it's very much amongst school children, which is why you've got hundreds of thousands of school children who've had to stay at home, and amongst young people leaving university. So if the average age is low, actually the reality is, and I've spoken to many doctors about this, it's better for young people who don't suffer from the virus, who are healthy. Better they get some natural antibodies from COVID than fill them with manufactured antibodies, which of course is the threat if they decide they want to try and vaccinate children, which is another whole battleground. So, you know,
which
I think
was the one, I suppose, bright spark of the day of Monday, when at least they announced that wasn't going to happen. But you don't get the sense that that's necessarily a promise forever, do you?
Definitely not, given the number of U-turns that we've seen here, there, and everywhere on everything. I think that is, let's just watch this space. But I really do worry about the ongoing chaos, and it's just, we've got this success. We've now got to go for it, and we've got to give people some confidence, some self-belief. And it's great in some sense to see masks disappearing, but there's still lots of people walking down the street, particularly young people, wearing a mask.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, why are you doing that? What level of fear and anxiety has this government essentially imposed upon its population? And it will take quite a long time for that.
I mean, listen, I
lift.
think I understand if older people are wearing them because they might wish to protect themselves in one way, shape or form. I think if you see younger people wearing them, it's a kind of uniform now. They're going, I'm in London, I'm a nice person, and I'm probably a Remainer, so if you don't want to talk to me, that'll be just fine. I think that's the sign.
Maybe it is, but I just can't understand it.
No.
Because it's not natural. And I think that what the country now needs is some real leadership that restores some confidence, both in businesses, in getting the economy going, but also in people's mental health. Just actually, we've got to move forwards. We've got to get out. And the thing about leadership is it's about explaining to people the context of where the virus is. Yes, cases are going up, but it's amongst young people.
Yeah.
Yes, but the vaccine works because mercifully, very few are dying of this virus. The reality is the average age of people sadly dying is still in the early 80s. It's around the life expectancy. If you set that context and remind people that it's just a fraction of the number of people who sadly die of cancer every day, then I think that actually would give some heart and some encouragement to people to move forward with our lives. And I think we really are, as a nation, we're being held back from our great potential by weak, feeble, U-turning leadership.
Yeah, which seems obsessed with one thing and one thing only, which is getting everybody vaccinated. And we never started out on this journey by saying that. It was going to vaccinate the vulnerable, and then vaccinate the over 60s, then it was maybe the over 50s, and now it's everybody. But they won't actually sell it like that. They'll try and make out that if you don't get vaccinated, there will be things you won't be able to do.
And what I heard from a government minister last night is they're now focusing very much on the booster programme, and that is literally just round the corner. But there's been no discussion that I've seen or scientific data about the durability of the double dosing vaccine. So we all understood that there might need to be a top up if you take the vaccine, if you want it. But it seems to me,
why though?
Well, it seems to me they're sort of rushing into that, and then you worry, well, where's the resources to do that? Should that be the NHS doing that, or should that be a whole different department? Because the NHS has got a lot of other things to do.
Yeah.
It's got millions and millions and millions of people waiting diagnostics, waiting treatment, waiting surgery. That's what the NHS has rapidly got to move forward to.
Yeah, absolutely right. And the way that other countries in Europe seem to be moving in this direction as well is quite worrying. I was saying to Julia, I don't understand, for example, if you go to Italy and they say you must have a double vaccine before you can go into a restaurant, how do they know that you've got one from another country? Or if you come from another country, does that mean you can't go into a restaurant? What's going on?
It is extraordinary. And I think it's going to be like we're just going to be rolling through this process for months and months and months. And I think it just... political leaders around the world have got to give some context and some courage to people that we've got to live with this thing. And look, if you're of a certain age, if you're vulnerable, if you feel at risk, then take the vaccine. But equally, let's put it in the context of normal life, the normal risks that we take every day when we leave our bedroom and leave our home.
Well, it's not a very good advert, is it, for Sajid Javid to say, get your vaccines here, both vaccines, you'll be much better off, and then he gets COVID anyway. It's kind of like, what? How did that happen?
And so that brings us on to the issue about vaccine passports, which clearly the government, having, again, said a few weeks ago, we're not going to use them domestically, all of a sudden it's announced to everyone's complete shock and horror this week that vaccine passports are going to be needed for nightclubs. That was Monday's story.
Right.
And now we're hearing just a few days later, well, it might be cinemas, it might be large gatherings. What's a large gathering? Is that a wedding?
Well, again, it's very vague, isn't it? They don't really make it clear whether it includes football matches, whether it includes sporting events indoors or outdoors. I mean, who knows?
Music festivals. And then the idea that you might have to show a vaccine passport in order to go and celebrate whatever religion you're in, whether you go to a church or a mosque or whatever. It just seems utterly extraordinary.
Yeah.
You want to go and celebrate and sing. No, you can't come in because you haven't got your passport.
I mean, the Church of England are already in a pretty weird place. I don't know if you saw that story from Poole where they've sacked a vicar who had the temerity to put some Bibles on the pews before a service, and actually then was seen hugging somebody, hugging a mourner at a funeral. It's been sacked. And you go, okay then. That's fine.
Well, I mean, I'm sure lots of other people will offer him a job because it sounds like he's got a dose of common sense.
He really
the Church
does.
of England clearly doesn't.
The Church of England is currently now banning the Bible.
I mean,
that's where we are.
You couldn't make it up.